watching Bloomberg West. I'm Emily Chang. Draper Fisher Jurvetson partner Steve Jurvetson is known as an enthusiast for both space exploration and robots. I spoke with Jurvetson about advancement in robot technology and artificial intelligence and the impact it'll eventually have on our everyday lives in part 2 of my interview with him. I started by asking how robots will change our lives 5 and 20 years from now. Take a listen.
In 5 years, I think we're going to see more of those autonomous cars driving around. And sometimes people don't think of them as robots, but in some ways, they're the most challenging robot. They're in and among humans. They're driving on our streets. They could be lethal. In many ways, it's set up for the perfect sci-fi plot. You know, robots gone wild. If it weren't for regulation and law, we'd have a lot of those cars on the road already, and in 5 years, even more, but we'll see. So those, I think, will be seeping into human consciousness that robots can do amazing things. In 20 years, there are a lot of other robots in the workplace that you don't see, the ones that are slowly but surely replacing mundane human labor, that will have a dramatic effect on the labor pool. They are being hired by the hundreds in China to replace sedentary workers who are doing just one task all day long for their entire career, and it's just a mind-numbing work. So I think robots will lower the cost of products. They will, unfortunately, lower the number of jobs we have on the planet. And I think people will start to realize that just about every manual task eventually will probably be done by a robot.
There are conflicting opinions about how dramatic the change is going to be, to we're just going to have more free time, robots are going to do more of the work, to an extreme scenario that Peter Thiel presents where we have to worry about human extinction.
That's right. So, well, the I just heard the word extinction. Let's say human, it could be tragedy or nirvana. And it really is a break in the path of the road that we're facing, which is you can paint a picture, let's say, 200 years out, so no one debates, is it happening? By then it will have happened, where robots can do anything a human could do, and will be more effective and more accurate and just better at it if it's repetitive work of any sort. What does that world look like? It could be a world of abundance where everything costs $1 a pound. What I mean by that is any physical thing, potato, a Ferrari, anything. With 3D printing technologies and with robotics, everything costs the same to make. Well, that could be pretty amazing, right? It could be a life of leisure where we don't have to work and the robots do our bidding, almost like serfdom or slavery, you know, in old times, which we would never hopefully do again with humans. But imagine the robots are the slaves. What would the indentured rich do? Would they do the arts, the science? They wouldn't think of having jobs. They just live a life of abundance. That's one nirvana that Peter Diamandis and some others paint as our possible future. Another is a really ugly transition from here to there, where we never get to that great world because on the path to that, we're losing jobs. The rich are getting richer, the poor can't find work, unemployment soars through 50%, eventually 80% unemployment. What does that world look like if we think of it as unemployment and if you need employment to live? That, unfortunately, seems to be the path we're on right now with our laws and systems. So you think tragedy is more likely? I think that's the current path we're on, and hopefully discussions like the ones we're having today within political circles, economic circles, technological circles could stave that off by saying, well, that's not a future I want. How can we help fix that problem?
Well, what changes it? Regulation?
Well, it could. I wouldn't bet on it, though, because I don't see a lot of foresight happening in the regulatory world, and I see a lot of debate, and it's just... It's a system that's meant to be glacial. You don't see radical change in government, you know, unless it's being overthrown. So the more likely path is going to be innovation for entrepreneurs. So can we, for example, provide the basic human needs, food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, education, almost for free? Education seems to be happening, these massive online courses that are available to all. Healthcare is the one that isn't, and that's one thing I want to invest in, to try to figure out a way to provide free healthcare for everyone forever. Imagine that notion. Right now, why would you even want to do this? I mean, there's more money to be made in dealing with the existing healthcare system and trying to fix it because there's billions of dollars flowing around. I think there's a strong motivation to think of a cell phone-based interactive system that could help diagnose and cure most diseases which involve medicine or nutrition or activity, not surgery. To provide that service could help stave off what would otherwise be a very fearful moment for those who can't afford healthcare.
Google's interested in robots, buying robotics companies, obviously building driverless cars. How much of the robotic world does Google own? A
lot. So Google is going heavily into this. Andy Rubin, who formerly was doing the Android product, which we all know and love, is the Google cell phone element. It's interesting, it was called Android. his love is robots. And so they have acquired a number of robot companies, and the vast majority of Google employees have no idea what they're being used for, which is kind of interesting.
You know?
I don't know for sure, but I have some suspicions. What I do know and believe strongly is that even if they never release an interesting product, the development and engineering trajectory that they're going through is involving technologies that are called machine learning and deep learning that are basically like the human brain. And that is applicable to many different things. It could be used to make better ad matching, the core of Google's business. It could be used to make a better autonomous car. It's a very domain-independent capability, much like intelligence itself. Once you get better and better at being intelligent, you can do a lot of things, and that's what Google's doing.
How worried are you about the power Google will have?
Yeah. Some people are more worried than I am. I instead am looking for the opportunity to invest in other paths so that at least they have some competition. And so since I work in venture capital, that's what I normally think of it. It's great to have a David, so you want to, a Goliath, and you want to invest in the Davids, if you will, the ones that will, hopefully overthrow that vision. Because the only thing that worries me about Google's approach is they don't seem particularly worried about surpassing humanity, to building things that make humanity look like just a point along the, path of evolution to greater and greater things. And there are a lot of humans that kind of want to root for humanity. And I think there's a lot of folks who are a little bit frightened by that cavalier attitude.
You're on the boards of Tesla and SpaceX. Right. Elon Musk, is he afraid of anything?
He's afraid of AI. He's afraid of Google's approach to AI, which is exactly that, to go just say, hey, we're going to make something smarter than humans that eventually replaces humanity. That, to him, sounds like folly. And he, in wanting to have us be a multiplanetary species, to have a presence on Mars, is really looking for a lifeboat for humanity, that if something goes really horribly wrong, be it just natural asteroids eventually will hit Earth, or some technology run amok, that it'd be good to have a outpost on Mars as a backup.
And yet, what about talk of a partnership between Google and Tesla?
They're friends. So Elon and despite all this, Elon and Larry are good friends. So it's an unusual relationship.
Okay. Draper Fisher Jurvetson partner Steve Jurvetson with me there in Half Moon Bay.